Here's War of the Roses on KDWB. Are they cheating? Chances are, yep, they're cheating. But just to make sure, it's the Dave Ryan Show's War of the Roses on 101.3 KDWB.
So this is a War of the Roses you're going to kind of have to pay attention to because there's a couple of things that don't really add up to him cheating.
Yeah.
But then you put them all together.
Yeah.
And then you got something that's a little bit more suspicious. So,
well, Dave, some War of the Roses you can be on your phone scrolling and only half listening to.
Yeah.
But this is one you got to put your phone down.
Yeah.
Unless you're listening to us on the phone, you have to all attention.
You kind of got to. Amy is on the phone. Amy's married to Tom, and Amy's worried that Tom is up to some shady stuff. Starting with what? Was it the 4th of July that you're like, okay, what's going on? Hi, Amy.
Hi, guys.
Hey, thanks for being on. Amy was going back and forth whether she wanted to do this or not. She's like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, no, you should do it. So I peer pressured him to go follow it through. So, Amy, what is it that happened on the 4th of July that made you think that you needed to be on War of the Roses?
So my husband and I, our plans were we were going to go to my family's house for fireworks and barbecue and whatnot. And then all of a sudden my husband was like, I'm sick and I've been throwing up. And of course, I'm like, he's like, I can't go. And I'm like, I'm disappointed in everything. But it was just weird that he got sick, like out of nowhere, like we had been eating the same stuff, like, for breakfast. So it was just very random that all of a sudden he started throwing up.
Okay. So he cancels 4th of July, so he doesn't go to your mom's house for 4th of July. He stays home.
Exactly. He's like, I'm going to stay home, I'm going to rest. And, I don't want to be like, I think you're faking it or something. But, I was like, okay, you know what? Stay home, get better. Then, I was at my mother's, I was calling and texting just to, check in, make sure he was okay. Like, if he wanted me to bring him home anything, like, if I need to give him, some Pepto-Bismol. But he wasn't answering anything, no calls, no texts, no nothing. And, of course, when he finally, does respond, he's like, oh, it's because I was asleep. And I'm like, okay, really? You've been sleeping for, 4 hours? It just really just seemed off.
So now that's an interesting conclusion to jump to because I'm thinking if that happened to me and Susan, I would think, first of all, she just didn't want to go. She's like, I just don't want to go. And she would probably say, I don't want to go, but she would suck it up and go anyway. But he got sick out of nowhere. You're calling him, no answer. Most people would think oh, well, he just was really sick or he just didn't want to be bothered. You think that there might be somebody else, not just based on that, but based on the boat incident.
The boat
incident. That's what we'll call this. What happened?
Yes.
What was the boat incident, Amy?
So, as the 4th of July is going, this is all happening. I'm replaying everything that's kind of been happening in the past few weeks. And I, remembered something that, kind of made me more suspicious now than it did when I first heard it. So, a few weeks ago, my neighbor, Beth, she saw me, she was out for a walk. I was at my mailbox. She, came over, started chit-chatting. And she was like, hey, I saw you on the boat the other weekend. And I was like, wait, what? She's like, yeah. She's like, we saw you and Tom on the boat Saturday. She's like, we were waving and we thought Tom saw us, but he kept kind of turning his head. And she's continually talking. I'm like, I was not on the boat this weekend, on Saturday.
So she saw, I want to get this right. So they saw Beth, the neighbor, saw you and your husband on the boat. And when they saw you, Tom and you took off full speed across the lake to get out of there like you were trying to avoid them. Is that what it was?
Yeah, but I wasn't on, but that's the thing. I wasn't on the boat.
How do you know you weren't on the boat? The neighbor saw you on the boat. You're pretty sure you were on the boat.
I was definitely not on the boat because I was at my son's baseball game.
You don't know that for sure.
It's like
you don't know for sure. No, I'm kidding. So in other words, you're like, okay, the neighbor Beth says, I saw you and Tom on the boat on that particular Saturday. You know you weren't on the boat because you were at your kid's baseball game.
Exactly.
So what does Tom say about this?
Well, she made a joke of it. First, she made a joke of it when I was like, I wasn't on the boat. She goes, well, if you were on the boat, it was someone who looked just like you. So, I mean, maybe Tom's seeing someone on the side, wink, wink. And I'm like, oh, my God, Beth. She's just one of those, like, nosy neighbors. She's a friend, but, sometimes you just can't stand her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like we all have those, right? So, I confronted Tom about it. I was like, hey, you said you were going out. Like, I knew he was going on the boat. He was going on the boat by himself. Like, that, I knew he was going
and
to the
boat. And people do that. You go out and cruise around, or you go fishing, or you just go sightseeing. It's fine.
So I was like, hey, so Beth is saying she saw you on the boat on Saturday, but she's saying that, there was a woman with you. Like, she thought it was me, which clearly it wasn't, since I was like, I wasn't there. I was like, what is going on? Like, who are you taking on the boat? And, he, like, laughed it off. He's like, that's crazy. I don't know what she thinks she saw. Like, I was on the boat by myself. Like, I don't know why she's stirring up the pot again. She has no business poking her nose into our lives. Like, just, denying. And, at that point, I'm like, okay, maybe she did see stuff. She is one of those, like, kind of pot stirrers. So I was trying to let it go. But now, like, with what happened on 4th of July, I'm like, was he really sick? Did he have another woman over at our house? Like, well, I'm at my parents'. Like, I just
see, because I would say with, I think most people would agree with the 4th of July, didn't feel good, stayed home, wouldn't answer the phone incident, whatever. But now backed up with the boat incident, it is kind of weird because your neighbor Beth thought she saw you on the boat, and then Tom and this other woman took off at a high rate of speed away from Beth when they saw her, which is exactly what somebody would do. Can you imagine? Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess let's say that you are out with Harry Styles on a boat.
Makes sense.
Okay, you're on a boat with Harry Styles, and then your neighbor sees you and is like, oh, let's go say hi to Fallon. That must be Jake. And as they pull up, you take off.
Yeah.
You would take off if you didn't want them to bust you on a boat with Harry Styles.
Now, the only flaw in this story, obviously, is I would want everyone, including my husband, to know I was on a boat with Harry Styles. Right, but I do get what you're saying, so I won't take away from that.
All right, so it all makes sense to me now. And you are certain, at least fairly certain, that was really him on the boat with somebody who looked like you, or at least a woman that they thought was you.
Yeah, it's just too hard. Him denying it, the more he denies it, the more I'm like, there's something going on.
Let me ask you this one. As you're listening to this woman talk about Amy talking about, her husband getting busted by the neighbor, have you ever been out at Redstone and walked by a booth and there's your neighbor sitting on the same side of the booth with a woman that's not his wife? Or have you ever been checking into the Red Roof Inn in Cloquet, Minnesota, and checking in behind you is your neighbor with a woman that's not his wife?
Awkward.
Have you ever found your neighbor, friend, brother, sister, anybody doing something hinky with somebody and that's not their partner? If you have, send me a quick text message because I'd love to hear you. So what do you think's going on here, Fallon? What do you think?
It is possible that, for me, it's 50-50, honestly, because the neighbors do seem like the annoying neighbor kind of people. If it was like the kind of people that you just believe everything they say, but you already said they're kind of the annoying neighbors anyway, then part of me is like, maybe Tom literally didn't see them and they just thought they saw something that looked like a head, but it wasn't.
I know what it was. I think you're onto something. Tom didn't want to deal with a neighbor.
Very possible.
Tom probably didn't have a woman on the boat. I don't know what it was. Maybe he did.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing. But maybe Tom saw Beth and is like, oh, God, it's Beth. Yeah. I'm going to get out of here. Okay.
I just feel like some are so obvious. To me, this one feels very, I don't know, I'm almost leaning more toward Tom. I'm hoping I'm leaning more toward Tom. I don't know.
We're going to find out in a second. We're going to call Tom. We're going to say, hey, take this survey. You win roses. And who do you want to send these romantic roses to? The obvious answer would be your wife. There's really no other good answer.
Yeah.
And we'll do that in a second. In the meantime, what do you think? Have you caught a neighbor doing something shady? Have you caught your sister doing something shady? Tell us that story, or just let us know what you think is going to happen on War of the Roses. Is she overreacting, or is she definitely onto something? 651-989-KDWB. Hang on, we'll make the phone call and talk to Jonathan Fogel, family law, coming up in a second.
Back to the War of the Roses on the Dave Ryan Show on KDWB.
All right, right, let's find out what you think before we make the phone call on War of the Roses. We already got some feedback.
Oh, yeah.
Just to give you a little, kind of bring you up to date, because I know sometimes you tune in the middle of War of the Roses. So she had a couple of things go on. She's married to this guy, and I guess just last Sunday, 4th of July, they were going to Mom's house to do fireworks and barbecue. He said, yeah, I don't feel good. I'm going to stay home. So she's checking on him during the afternoon. Didn't answer the phone. He's like, well, I was sleeping. She thought that was kind of weird. Not really weird, but then coupled with what happened a couple of weeks ago, which we call the boat incident, where the neighbor comes up to her, Beth. She sees her at the mailbox. She's like, yeah, saw you and your husband out on the lake the other day. As soon as you spotted us, you hightailed it the other way. And she's like, I was not on the lake with, what's her husband's name, Tom or Ted or Tony or something like that, Tom. And I was like, I was not on the lake with Tom. I was at my son's baseball game. That was when Tom said he was going to the lake by himself. And the neighbor said something like, well, a woman on the lake on the boat looked just like you, so he must be seeing a woman on the side that looks just like you. Ha,
LOL.
ha, ha.
Yeah.
So now she's wondering both things, like during the 4th of July picnic, was he with somebody else? So we're going to talk to some people and find out what you think. Our buddy Chance is up first. Good morning, Chance. What's your take? Good. What's your take on War of the Roses this week?
First thing is that nosy neighbor. I mean, she's just looking to stir the pot. I mean, to be honest, for somebody to bring, when I used to do my dirt, I'm not laughing. I'm looking for a scapegoat when it gets brought to my attention. So I'm going to laugh and be like, okay, let's figure this out. And I don't like going to family members' events anyway. So, yeah, I'm going to say, I don't feel good. I'm going to stay home. And, yeah, I'm probably going to go to sleep if I am sick.
Would you believe it, though? Because I had one time with I don't want to say who it is, but it was my ex-fiance, and one time she was supposed to meet me somewhere at a bar. She never showed up. And I called her house, no answer. And she was not the kind of person to not answer her phone. And I was instantly suspicious, but it was all cleared up a little bit later on. So we've also got somebody else on the phone. Before we make the phone call, hold on. It is Rachel in St. Michael. We asked whether you've caught anybody cheating, like maybe you saw somebody out or go
at my friend's house across the street, and then in her backyard you can see a bunch of the rest of the neighbors. And through my friend's house, I saw my dad in the neighbor's house. And then I asked him about it when he got home and said, oh, hey, I saw you with the neighbors. Like, what were you doing with the neighbors? He said, oh, I was just, helping her fix some stuff at her house. And I thought it was weird because my dad is not, like, the kind of guy who knows how to fix things. Your help to have someone fix things at our house. Like, he can't even fix the cupboard door.
Yeah, right. So he was over there. So how did you figure out that he was actually cheating?
Huh?
How did you figure out that he was actually cheating?
Well, because my mom and dad got into a fight like 2 weeks later, and they're like shouting and screaming. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then it came to light that my dad was cheating with the neighbor.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I've known a couple of neighbors that had like hooked up. Not in my neighborhood, certainly.
Well, some of the texts say that too, that are coming in, that they've seen their neighbors cheating. Like this one, my neighbor saw my ex trying to sneak a girl out of our house after cheating on me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then this is an example. This one said, my best friend's husband caught his neighbor sleeping with his wife. His neighbor was my now ex-husband. Honestly, that's so convoluted. I cannot even put the people together. This one says, I was busted on a date with a guy by a client while my wife was out of town. And a lot of people are commenting.
So in other words, he was on a date with a guy.
Yeah.
While his wife was out of town and busted by a client.
Yeah. A lot of people are texting in this, and I will give the guy a pass on this one. They're like, why was he not at the baseball game? Why was the mom there? Why was he out on the boat? I mean, sometimes you don't go to every single thing.
No, it's true. I thought about that one, too. It's like, you know what? Maybe it's his stepson, and maybe she's like, it's okay. You never get to go on the boat. Go on the boat. Or
maybe it's his son in general. It's just like he hasn't had one night to himself in a month. So she's like, go out on the boat.
Trust me, when Allison was in volleyball, I did not make every volleyball game.
Yeah.
When Carson was in softball or baseball, Susan did not make every baseball game. So I get it. We're going to talk to Jonathan Fogel coming up in a second after we make the phone call on War of the Roses and get an official legal opinion on the whole thing and maybe some insight on this relationship.
And set up the dozen long stem romantic roses for you. Those should go out from our partner company later this week. And what I'll need from you, Tom, is, of course, the recipients, I guess I should say lucky recipient's name of those roses.
Yes, that works for me. I would like the roses sent to my beloved Amy Marie.
Okay. And you can include a card like most roses have. Tom, do you want to leave a note for Amy?
Absolutely. I would like it to say, Honey Bunny, I love you more and more every day.
Wow. That is romance and delight there. I love a little honey bunny.
I'm a romantic.
Tom, I got some good news for you. You have passed our little test here. Let me explain what's going on. It's Dave Ryan.
Of KDWB in the morning?
Yes.
Hey, Dave, what's up? Yeah, I'm not surprised in the least that you've been doing this bit for 20 years. War the Roses, man. Come on, step it up. Step
Big
your game
fan
up.
then, okay.
Yeah, I've been listening to you since I was in middle school. I've been down this road, my friend. This is not my first rodeo.
So you knew right when Fallon said, "Hey, I'm calling from your cable company," that it was War of the Roses, and you knew exactly what we were doing.
There was not a question in my mind. As soon as you said cable company sending roses, what cable company wants to do anything good for anybody?
That's true. I mean, good point, actually.
Okay, but here's the thing. And so then you know that there is somebody on the other phone. Now, I'm going to quiz you. I'm going to put you on the spot for a little bit. Who do you think is on the other phone? Because if you don't name the person that's on the other phone, your ass is busted.
As it should be. Yeah, it's the love of my life, Amy. Hey, babe.
Hey, babe.
How you doing?
Okay, so the reason that she wanted to do War of the Roses was because of what we call the boat incident, where you fled neighbor Beth a couple of weeks ago when you saw Beth approaching your boat. Apparently, you turned on the motor and you fled at high speed across the lake. Beth saw you and said, "Hey, who is that woman that was with your husband, or was that you?" And then you said that you were on the boat alone. And that's your story, and you're sticking with it.
So as I have said, since Beth moved in 2 years ago, she's full of she doesn't know anything. She loves to start drama. She's been living alone for those 2 years. She loves nothing more than just stirring up the pot. Yes, I was on the boat, but I was with no one. Beth is hallucinating.
So now it's really up to you. I mean, Amy, do you believe Tom, or is there still a question? He didn't know it was War of the Roses, so that kind of negates any trap that we might have set for him.
Yeah, I mean, he is right. Like, Beth is delusional. Like, she does say, like, she has said stuff before that just didn't add up. Like, maybe I got sucked into her delusion. And it just made me crazy, you know. I mean, I want to believe Tom. He is the love of my life. I don't want to think that he would be stepping out on me. So I really just want to believe that it was Beth just being Beth and just, you know, trying to stir the pot and, you know, get a reaction out of me.
That sounds like the worst, honestly. But I will say that I do think that this is a flawed system. You're going to have to find a different way to trick him, because he knew it was us, so he knew to send them to you.
Put a tracker on his car. I'm just
there
saying.
It is. I love that.
Put a
the
tracker
boat.
on
tracker
his car.
on the car.
A tracker
and
on that boat.
Yeah.
You're going to have to try harder. I mean, I love you, Amy. I'm not going to step out on you. Never will, never have.
I don't know. Who do you believe? Because he knew it was War of the Roses. So, of course, it's kind of like if your mom and dad are watching you, you're going to be really good.
Yeah.
Because you know they're watching. But if you don't think anybody's watching you, that's when you start screwing up.